Why, hello there. For our next project, we're gonna replace the brakes on this M Roadster. So we are replacing both the brake discs and the pads. You know, it's the same as in any other car. You know, it's a pretty straightforward process. I'll show you what tools and everything I use to get this done. We're gonna come over to the rear and start with this side, the passenger side. Okay, to start, I'm just gonna remove this brake wear sensor. Okay, so our next step is actually to undo this caliper, and for that we're gonna need a 7mm hex bit. Yeah, see these pads? They got plenty of life on them. Oh well. Alright, so for this step we're gonna have to support this caliper, and I'm just gonna use zip ties because I have plenty of those. You know, you can fashion yourself a little hanger from some wire hangers. But this is perfectly fine. I'm just gonna this. I'll just tie it to this spring. Okay, now the rotor is going to come out, so you're going to use a 16mm metric socket for that. If you have an impact wrench, it would be helpful right now. Or, in my case, I'm going to grab a breaker bar. Alright, I'm thinking that this thing is going to do the job. The only challenge is going to be getting it in here. Yes. The bracket is off. I'm just gonna clean this up and maybe paint it. It's probably gonna be black. I don't like flashy things. Alright, now to remove this rotor, I'm gonna bring this around. So we have this hex screw here. Yep, it's a 6mm hex bit, and actually it's, like I said, it's super shallow, so I'm gonna use a hammer to try to tap it in a little more. Okay, now that it's firmly in, gonna hold our fingers crossed. Alright, so let's see here. Oh, that was a lot easier than I expected it to be. Every car I've ever had, I've always stripped this. And before I put it back in, I'll be sure to add some lube to it. Just because I'm nice, and just to make sure that next time it's time to replace, you know, whether it's me or the next owner, it's going to be just as easy as it was just now. Okay, so this is stuck. I think this parking brake actually needs a lot of adjustment because it's still stuck. There we go. And as you can see, this rotor is actually in a great shape. It must have been replaced not that long ago. Oh well. And actually these handbrake pads have been replaced as well. They're not the original units and they have plenty of life left. So before I forget, I'm just gonna adjust these. Just bring him in a little bit. Alright, just take a brush like this and go all the way around. Alright, I'm just going to use this. Just like with my other parts, I got an FCP Euro. Okay, so here's the new brake disc. It's a Zimmerman. I actually really like this brand. I've had these on my E36 M3. They're fantastic. I'm just going to use a little bit of the same loop on this screw here. Again, just to make it easier for me next time around when it's time to replace these. Whoops. Wrong hole. I'm an idiot. You don't need to have it on that tight because it doesn't really hold anything. The screw is only there to hold this rotor in place while you're putting the tire on, so you know it doesn't spin and the holes get misaligned. It's really not necessary. Alright, and looking at my caliper too, you know, it's gonna need some cleaning and painting, so when I come back, hopefully all that's gonna be done. we're gonna insert the pads and put this thing back together. Alright, so now the new brakes are ready to go on, and like I said, the rotor is already on, and I lubricated the screw to make sure it's easier to take out next time around. You also want to make sure that you don't over tighten it. I took off this caliper bracket just to clean it up a little bit, give it a little paint. I was gonna powder coat these, but then I decided that it's just not worth it, because this is just something that's, it's gonna look like crap again in no time anyway, no matter how you paint it, and no one's gonna see that. This isn't the show car. This is a daily driver slash fun car slash occasional HPD car. So regular, caliper paint, just did the trick. I mean, of course I cleaned it up and everything, but I'm not gonna stress about it. Okay, so here are the pads I'm using. These are actually a StopTech Sport. I've had on my BRZ before, and I really like the way they performed. Of course, these aren't like ceramic brakes or something that you would use for heavy track use, but occasional HPD, this is fine. If if you're not driving too aggressively, they're not gonna fade even on track conditions. So they're not that cheap, but they're not that expensive either. But I found them to be a pretty good pad. The only downside of these is that of course they produce a lot of dust. Actually, before I install them, I also like to put a little grease on these channels here, because the pad is going to slide back and forth on it. So I found that this reduces a lot of squeaks. Alright, perfect. Now we're gonna install this caliper. Actually, before we do that, we need to do a couple of things to it. First of all, look at these guide pins. They're caked with dirt, so I do want to clean them up a little bit, and I also want to apply new grease. Okay, if you buy your brake pads from something like Advanced Auto Parts or AutoZone, I think usually those kits don't have the new rubber boots or any of this hardware, but they do sell all that stuff separately, so make sure you get that. With StopTech, of course, they include this stuff. Okay, I actually missed a step. So I took the pads out, and before we do anything else, we're gonna need to put these boots inside. And the way you do them, you stick them in from the outside in. And just to make the job easier, you can also use the same brake grease to lubricate them. And of course, last but not least, do not forget to install your anti-rattle clips. Or springs, whatever you want to call them. There you have it. The rears are done. Alright, so moving on to the front, it's largely going to be the same type of procedure. You know, as you can see, I already put the rotor on, and again I lubricated the screw, didn't tighten it that much, so I'm going to begin by putting on this caliper bracket. I hope I'm using the right technical terms here. And there we have it, a 2000 Z3 M Roadster brake job. I realize that I'm not perfect and maybe, you know, I make some mistakes, but all in all, you know, it's fairly simple procedures. You know, again, if you guys have any questions or anything like that, just make sure to add a comment or just shoot me an email, or some of you have been writing me on the forums. I'm on BIMA forums. But aside from that, I really appreciate you guys watching my videos. You know, I can't thank you enough for all the likes and, you know, over 100 subscribers now, which is not really a lot. But again, that means, you know, 100 people that actually care about the projects that I do, or people that found my stuff helpful. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, of course give me a like, share it, subscribe, and if you'd like to support me, you know, there are some shirts that I designed, and the links to them are going to be in the description. Take care.